Breaking tonight, growing fallout over reports that the president-elect's team may be considering some kind of registry for folks who are coming to the United States from areas that are hotbeds for terrorism. While critics are hitting the plan as anti-American, some constitutional experts say it's not only legal, but several administrations have used practices like this. Trace Gallagher explains how this might work. Trace?
Megan, when it comes to implementing Donald Trump's call for extreme vetting of immigrants from some Muslim countries, Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach, a member of the Trump transition team, says the answer might be reinstating the National Security Exit and Entry Program system known as NSEERS, which required people from primarily Muslim countries deemed as a higher risk to be interrogated and fingerprinted. The program started after 9/11 and ended in 2011 when the Department of Homeland Security decided it was redundant. It was also criticized for unfairly targeting Muslims. And Chris Kobach, who helped design the program, acknowledges NSEERS didn't result in any terror charges, but says it was a great tool for fighting terror because law enforcement could identify potential terrorists who did register and arrest those who didn't. And even those who oppose NSEERS say it would be easy to reinstate because technically it's still on the books. Former Policy Director for Homeland Security Teresa Brown told BuzzFeed the program is inactive because the 25 high-risk countries were taken off the list. But if the president issues a new order and if the Homeland Security Secretary issues a new list of countries, the program could be easily reactivated. Whether it passes constitutional muster is a different question. Experts say there is no comparison to the internment of the Japanese during World War II because those were American citizens. And now the Trump team says they would not be registering just Muslims, but rather those who come primarily from Muslim countries, a distinct legal distinction.
Okay, Trace, thank you. Our next guest is among the legal experts suggesting that a program like this, like that post 9/11 registry, would likely pass constitutional muster before a judge, in part because it already has. J. Christian Adams is a former DOJ attorney. Great to see you, Chris. So describe what exactly you think would be legal.
Foreigners do not have a constitutional right to enter the United States, Megan. Even Americans, they don't enjoy the Fourth Amendment rights against search and seizure when they're at the border. So the Constitution doesn't apply normally at the border. All you have to do is say these hotbeds of terror have to be subject to additional screening. This is a reasonable request. It's something I think most Americans would agree with. If you come to this country and want in from these hotbeds of terrorism, you're going to be subjected to additional screening. It's neither Muslim nor a registry. It's where terror is.
How far could they go with that? I mean, could they say, we need your address, we need your cell phone, we need your fingerprints, you need to check in with us every 3 days, and if you don't, you're out?
Absolutely. It's totally constitutional. And it was in place, something similar to that, up until 2011, which naturally the Obama administration quit doing. You could say you have to check in with INS every week. Remember, the 9/11 terrorists, Megan, overstayed their visa. A tool like this would have been effective to help stop 9/11.
So how, I mean, the concern is that what if we wanted to go beyond that? What if we wanted to do something like corral them and keep them in a certain area? I mean, they do have constitutional rights once they get on U.S. soil and get past the border.
That's right, and nobody is suggesting that. Nobody's suggesting. That's part of this attack on the Trump transition, is they're making things up that aren't actually being suggested. You cannot corral people based on the religion, and nobody's suggesting it. But you can impose entry requirements that will protect this country by asking them about their views of certain issues. Or do they think it's legitimate to wage jihad against the West?
Can Donald Trump just do that with a stroke of a pen, or does he have to, get that passed through Congress?
He can do it with a stroke of a pen, and I suggest he probably is going to do it because that's why he was elected, to try to keep America safer than we've seen over the last couple of years in places like Paris, where you can see what happens if you don't protect the country.
The president has a lot of power in dealing with the border to protect the nation. Christian Adams, great to see you.
Thanks, Megan.
Well, this debate over this has been on fire in the media today, and we're picking it up there with Carl Higbie, a former Navy SEAL and Trump supporter, and Hassan Shilby, the Chief Executive Director of the Florida branch of the Council on American Islamic Relations, known as CARE. Great to see you both.
Thank you.
So, Carl, we had this debate on the show last night.
Right.
You just want to make clear that we got into this back and forth about, you know, whether there was legal precedent for doing this with
Right.
checking at the border, and you were not. You made a reference to the Japanese in World War II, and your position tonight is that that was not a reference to internment camps.
Oh, no,
is that
absolutely.
right?
I was, quite frankly, I was actually shocked that you brought in internment camps, but it was a reference strictly to the scrutiny on immigration and the stopping of immigration and the registration of immigrants coming from places like Japan and Italy and Germany and things like that. So no, it had nothing to do with internment camps whatsoever.
Okay, you didn't say that you were shocked. Here is what happened between us last night when we were talking about this proposal by Chris Kobach to check out Muslims at the border. Listen. They're discussing drafting a proposal to reinstate a registry for immigrants from Muslim countries. For immigrants from Muslim countries.
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, it is legal. They say it'll hold constitutional muster. I know the ACLU is going to challenge it, but I think it'll pass. And we've done it with Iran back a while ago. We did it during World War II with Japanese, which, you know, call what you will, maybe
You're not proposing we go back to the days of internment camps, I hope.
No, I'm not proposing that at all, Megan. But what I am
You know
saying
better
is
than
that
to
we need to
suggest
protect
that. I mean,
America.
that's the kind of stuff that gets people scared, Carl.
Right, but I'm just saying there is precedent for it, and I'm not saying I agree with it.
Right. So, I mean, there wasn't shock expressed. They were saying, hey, there's precedent for it, which is what got people, you know, confused. But I take you at your word if you're saying you were referencing something else. You were trying to make a different point.
It was referenced in parallel with Iran when we, under Jimmy Carter, when we banned immigration from Iran. So I assume that, forgive me for not being as clear as I possibly could, but I never...
Because you mentioned the Japanese in World War II.
Yeah, no, I did, but I did not ever mention internment camps. So, for those out there who thought it was...
I know, but that's kind of the big story about what we did here to the Japanese.
You put words out there, Megan, and let's be honest, the media had
Only after you put out the words about what we did to the Japanese in World War II, which is like, okay, I remember that.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I think the left-wing media took this by the horns because they're not a fan of Donald Trump, but this is exactly why he run, because of the dishonest media. Not saying you.
Okay. Listen, I understand you're clarifying it. Got it. Hassan, let me bring you in on what Carl is actually saying tonight, which is he supports this proposal. You just heard our lawyer saying it would be upheld in a court of law to say Muslims coming into the country from countries where terror originates or where there's a terror problem, that they could be forced to submit to this kind of monitoring. Your thoughts?
Thank you, Megan. And to Carl, I say, have you no sense of decency, sir? I mean, America is a country based on freedom of religion. Freedom of religion is a fundamental principle that I have taken an oath, and I'm sure you've taken an oath to protect. And it is ineffective to target people simply based on religion. Let's target criminals, let's target terrorists, but let's not divide people simply based on their religion. And my children hear you. After Donald Trump won, my children came home, they're ages 4, 5, and 6. And we don't talk about politics at home, but they said, Daddy, Trump won, and now he's going to kick us out. And he's going to build a wall so big we can't even fly back home. And I told them, kids, don't worry, you're all born here. This is your land, and I'll protect your freedom to practice your faith in this land, as we will protect the freedom of all Americans to practice their faiths in this land.
He's not talking about
freedom.
Americans, though, Hassan.
Yeah.
He's not talking about Americans. He's talking about foreigners who want to come into America and the kind of screening that we should do when we're in a war on terror.
Well, I think anybody coming into America should face scrutiny and screening to make sure that people who are coming into America are law-abiding.
You don't think there should be
and
any
don't pose
heightened
us a threat.
scrutiny for those who come from hotbeds of terror?
I don't think there should be heightened scrutiny based on people's religion. Again, that's not what America's about. You have the
That's not what she
IRA
asked.
committing
But
terrorism.
is
You have the Lord's
that
Resistance
based
Army
on
committing
religion, or is
terrorism.
it based on a geographical, a geopolitical
Well, we've
war?
heard many different things. We've heard many different things from Trump supporters and Trump surrogates, and some have advocated. I mean, this gentleman here himself has said some very negative things about the entire Muslim community. We can't be promoting fear and hate against an entire religious community. Let's target on actual threats, but let's not divide Americans based on religion, because what makes America so great is freedom of religion. That's what the U.S. Constitution is about.
Go ahead, Carl.
Well, Hassan, forgive me for not taking you too seriously about American security and safety, which is the paramount of Donald Trump's policies here. Your organization, CARE, was listed as a terrorist organization by the UAE. 7 of your board members can't come into the United States because they have alleged terrorist ties, and you supported Hamas. So let's be very clear here. Donald Trump wants to protect Americans first and scrutinize people who want to join our country, and make sure when they do join our country, they do it on our terms, which is safe for Americans, but we also want to be fair to the people who are already here. So I welcome immigrants, I welcome people from all over the country, or all over the world, to join us here, but I want to make sure that it's safe for Americans in my country that I fought for.
Go ahead, Hassan.
And that's absolutely false. You know, I'm a civil rights lawyer. I run the largest civil rights organization in the state of Florida. We defend the rights of all people of discrimination, regardless of race or religion or ethnicity.
The
to protect
UAE
freedom
has
for all
designated CARE as a
Americans.
terrorist
The
organization.
the UAE did designate CARE, not CARE Florida, and we don't go by the UAE. We live in a democratic country. The UAE does not have democratic freedoms or liberties, and the reason they did
This
is
is
because
another Muslim
CARE is a civil
country
rights
declaring that.
organization. Yes, a dictatorship. Are you under UAE laws or do we believe in American laws? I go by the American system. Only a couple months ago, I met with the president. Our deputy director is a sheriff deputy, and he protects this country day and night. We keep our country safe. We're proud Americans, and we want to keep America a free and just nation for all people, regardless of their race or religion, and we will stand for all victims of discrimination. Let's stand united. Let's not let fear and hate divide us and turn us against each other.
Carl, I'll give you the quick last word, and I gotta go.
I just want to say thank you, Megan. I think the American people understand where we stand on our differences on this one, so thank you.
Great to see you both. Also tonight, we're doing a new investigation into fake news reports and whether they changed people's votes. Plus, Nancy Pelosi may lose her 14-year grip on power as a result of the pounding the Democrats took last week. Mark Thiessen and Austin Goolsbee are here on what that means for the country.